So you want to become a Thunderbird or Blue Angel pilot? Well, this video is going to help teach you how to succeed more than you want to breathe and how to make that happen. Roll the clip.
When you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful.
What up, Jet Team? Welcome to the channel. If you haven't been here before, my name's Ryan. I'm a former F-15E combat fighter pilot, F-16 Thunderbird pilot, and current commercial pilot. And I use that experience to break down epic aviation videos and stories that you can fire my way on Instagram. And someone asked me, how do I become a Thunderbird or a Blue Angel pilot? Well, ask and you shall receive. I would love to help you on that journey, but it's a three-part series. So if you haven't already, go back and check out my video on how to become a military pilot, then how to become a fighter pilot, and then finally, this is the summit. This is the tip of the mountain where we're gonna dive in to specifically how to make one of the jet teams. And this is information that will not be released on any website, that none of the services will tell you how to do. So stay to the end of this video for bonus information that if I had to give you two things that helped me get to where I was a Thunderbird pilot, those would be it. So stay to the end to catch those. Before we get going, guys, if you would, just dominate that like button for me, maybe even subscribe. Every time you like and subscribe, a Thunderbird or Blue Angel pilot somewhere gets their wings. And who knows? One day, that pilot could be you. Let's dive in. So what will you be doing as a Thunderbird or a Blue Angel pilot? Well, you've probably been to some air shows or you've seen some of the videos, but as a Thunderbird pilot, you're gonna be raging around in an F-16C that's painted red, white, and blue. That's the single seat version. It's a Block 52, which means that it has a wide mouth intake, and that thing is just built for speed. Anything that slows it down has been removed, so it's essentially a Formula One race car, and if I don't say so myself, one of the most fun jets to fly. It essentially feels like you are strapped to a rocket, and it's just a good time. If you're on the Blue Angels, what you'll be doing is you'll be raging around in a brand spanking new Super Hornet. The Blue Angels recently transitioned to Super Hornets within the past few years, this video being made. I actually got to fly Blue Angel 1 in my cockpit during the transition, and we got to discuss a lot of the ins and outs of flying the Super Hornet. I'll just say the Super Hornet is an incredible machine, so capable, ton of thrust, excellent at low speed handling characteristics, and it's painted blue and yellow. If I don't say so myself, Blue Angels have some incredible style and creativity in their flying, and the Super Hornet is an excellent jet to bring out that way of flying. The Super Hornet is just a beauty of a machine, and we'll leave it at that before I get a little bit too excited. Let's talk Thunderbird specific. So if you're gonna go out for the team, you need to have 1,000 hours of fighter jet time, and that could be in any of the Air Force's 4th generation fighters or the 5th generation fighters. And then after that, you need to have gone to combat and served in a combat area. The reason why is because you're gonna be representing 700,000 men and women who have volunteered to go into combat and put their life on the line. So if you're gonna be raging around in that jet representing them in air shows, you're essentially the ambassador for them, and you're telling their story to the civilian population. So you're kind of that bridge between the military and civilians where you can kind of share experiences with people in a way that they can understand, and that's why they call the Thunderbirds the ambassadors in blue. The Thunderbirds typically select 2 to 3 demonstration pilots every year, so needless to say, it is a very select group of people that actually make the team. Once you're selected, you'll do about 6 months of training. You'll do 2 years of air shows where you'll probably do around 80 different sites for shows, and then you'll do 6 months of instructing after that. Really awesome experience, especially the instruction part. I enjoyed it a ton. And a fun fact about the Thunderbirds, they recently made a change that aligns with the Blue Angels, where Thunderbird 3 moves to Thunderbird 4 in their second year. That way, Thunderbird 4 is always a second year team member, so they can back up the boss extremely well. And when it comes to the solos on the Thunderbirds, Thunderbird 6 will eventually become Thunderbird 5 once they've gotten that experience of flying for the team for a year. Now let's talk Blue Angel specific. So every Blue Angel demonstration pilot must be carrier qualified. And this is because being carrier qualified is essentially one of the most challenging things you can do in the F-18. So they want to make sure that you have the stick and rudder skills that are going to be required to create those epic formations that the Blue Angels fly, and that's just a really nice screening criteria. Next, they're going to need 1,350 flight hours, and you're going to need to have done an operational fleet tour, which essentially means you've been in a position to go into combat. So again, you can represent all the members of the Navy who have signed up to do the same, because again, you are an ambassador when you're on these teams and you're telling the story of those men and women in the Air Force and in the Navy, in the case of Blue Angels, that are signing up to put their lives on the line. Here's some broad specifics on applying to both of the teams. When you go through the application process, you're going to be brought out to air shows because they essentially want to see how you act in front of the public. And when a camera is thrown in your face, that's when some people might freeze up or some people might be comfortable and able to tell their story and tell the story of the people that they're representing. You'll also be going to schools and telling your story during these interviews to see how you interact with people who might decide one day to join the Air Force or join the Navy. You'll also go to hospitals and help inspire people to help them heal and encourage their family to continue to help their loved ones heal as well. Because when it comes to both of these teams, you're not just a fighter pilot, you're not just a demonstration pilot, you are essentially a public affairs officer for the Air Force and the Navy, so you gotta make sure your skills are sharp on camera. Now let's talk about some misconceptions about the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels. I actually had these prior to becoming a Thunderbird, and the first one is you need to be a robot and all the things you say are planned out. If you haven't noticed, I kind of like to freestyle just a little bit, just a tad bit. So for me, I was afraid that they were going to tell me what to say on the teams. I was really relieved to find out that that's not the case. The teams and the leaders of the teams are very interested in telling your individual story and being relatable to others. The next misconception is in order to try out for the teams, you need to feel like you were destined to do this. And I actually heard people say that prior to applying, and so I thought, well, I've never really felt destined to do this. To me, it would just be a really amazing opportunity. And what I found was some of the people that are like, I'm destined to do this, this is what I was meant for, they were a little bit too sharp-edged. They had a little bit too much of an ego to be around people and feel like it was a team effort and not just all about them. So if you don't feel like this is something that you were meant to do, that's totally okay. And the third misconception is if you're on these teams, you won't go into combat. And that's not true. In a worst case scenario, you could be called into combat and they can transition these jets into combat ready aircraft within 72 hours. One of the main things with the Thunderbirds that they're gonna have to do is remove the smoke oil canister, which takes the place of the gun, and put the gun back in. I mean, could you imagine being in combat and you go to shoot the gun and all that happens is smoke comes out? The enemy fighter jet's like, whoa, thought I was gonna get shot, but now it's just a really cool air show. So now guys, let's talk about how the interview process worked for me, because I think there's some lessons that we can all get out of it. So I got a call from the team saying, hey, we think you should probably put in an application based on some of the recommendations from some people on the team. Now, I'd gone to combat with those people, so they kind of knew me a little bit better than most, and sometimes that can at least help get your name in the right place. It's not gonna make you make the team, but it can definitely get you maybe the first step in the process. Now, I told my boss that I wanted to do it, and then his boss said, no, he's not the chosen one from the base, so we're not gonna put his name forward. And that's okay, I kind of understood it, because honestly, I was never really the boss's favorite, because I'm someone who speaks truth to power. I'm someone who doesn't necessarily care about promotion, but when it came to my peers, I always wanted to be the person that people depended on. And I'd usually raise my hand and step up and take weird shifts or things that maybe people with families weren't able to do. I wanted to be the person that people just wanted around and could rely on. So I think that's why the Thunderbirds gave me the call, even after my boss's boss said, no, we're not gonna let him apply. And the Thunderbirds were like, hey, why don't you put in an application and we'll kind of handle some of the other details. So the lesson there is, if you're looking out for the people around you, you start to create a reputation where people want to help you. And I was very fortunate that even though the leadership wasn't necessarily at first excited about making me a Thunderbird, some of the people that I had been there for and deployed into combat with definitely thought that I had what it takes. So I got the call after I submitted my application directly to the team, and then I went to a 7-day interview process, and that's exactly what you would do on the Thunderbirds or the Blue Angels. I made it through that process, which was a whole bunch of interviews, and then I went to the finals. The finals are a ton of interviews with generals on the Thunderbirds, admirals with the Blue Angels, and then it culminates with a 12-person interview with all the officers from the team interviewing you and peppering you with questions. I just tried to have fun with it and be honest and keep it real and maybe laugh a little bit at some of the things that were going on and share some fun experiences because I knew that's how I was going to be if I actually made the team anyway. So I wanted to be authentic and real, and I think that just came across during the interviews. And then a week later, the boss who had originally said that he wasn't going to let me apply came to me in the squadron, sat me down and said, "I want to congratulate you, Neo. You are the Air Force's newest Thunderbird pilot." And that was an incredible moment because I think it was essentially a tip of the hat from him where he was like, look, you kind of beat the system, but at the end of the day, there was a lot of mutual respect between the two of us. And sometimes as fighter pilots, I think we all recognize that someone who's authentic and real and maybe a little bit rebellious can actually make a really good fighter pilot, kind of like Maverick. Roll the clip.
His exploits are legendary. His call sign, Maverick.
So you made it to the end of the video, guys, so I'm a man of my word. Here's that bonus tip which I think truly helped me to become a Thunderbird pilot. And that is, I dare you to sacrifice what you are. I dare you to sacrifice comfort for what you want to become. So there were so many times where I sacrificed my Friday night, my Saturday night, or whatever it took to be there for my peers and for the people in my squadron. Again, I wanted to raise my hand and be the person that people could depend on and then spend quality time with them when I could and build those relationships. And I think it's those relationships that was the hand that reached down and helped pull me up and helped me to become a Thunderbird. And I think every Thunderbird, every Blue Angel would probably have some different version, but that would include similar elements of that principle. And that last bonus tip that you won't find anywhere else, guys, is to say no to the things that might keep you from succeeding. Say no to the things that might slow you down. Say yes to the things that will help you and move you forward, and do that on a daily basis. Roll that final. Guys, it really means a lot to me. I was really excited to make this video for you, and I hope it paints the picture of how you can become a Thunderbird or a Blue Angel or just succeed in whatever it is that you're up to. If you wouldn't mind, before you go, dominate that like button for me and subscribe. You've really helped me grow this channel, and I'm so grateful for that. Most of all, I'll see you in the next video, and I hope you have a great day.